Okay, so welcome. So one thing that I'd like to start doing in this group is I'm going to be doing bi-weekly check-ins. So this is Jocelyn Vallejo, our beautiful virtual assistant,
Hello.
who is responsible for keeping track of the private group, letting people in, and she reads I read the responses to the questions as well, but Jocelyn is the one who's really reading every single response and telling me about what people are looking for and what they're needing, and sort of keeping her finger on the pulse of how the group is going. And so, Jocelyn, I think I would like to start with a guided meditation and intention for our check in today.
Great.
So, again, we're going to just sort of find a comfortable spot and take a deep breath. Without any need to change it, we're just going to witness the way the oxygen fills your lungs and the way we are releasing it. And just allow yourself to sink a little more heavily into your seat. Just noticing that sensation of being held and supported. Giving your soul, your essence, full permission to sink down into your body and into your sacred temple. And on your next inhalation, I'd like you to invite in a cleansing white light. Just watch it fill your body, reaching out to all your extremities, your fingers, your toes, the top of your head. And as it fills your body, it finds those places of tension, blockages, things that no longer serve you. And when it finds those places, it touches them with love and compassion, breaks them up. And on your next exhalation, I'd like you to imagine releasing that into the universe to be alchemized and transformed. Draw in as much light as you need and just release what no longer serves. Just witnessing and feeling your whole body filling up with healing white light. And now as you take in a breath, just imagine every time you breathe inwards that with every inhalation, that inner space expands just a little bit more. With every breath in, it just gets wider and wider, to the point where you might imagine what vastness would look like in your inner space, in your heart space, your soul. Whatever vastness looks like for you, know that it exists within you. And so, since our group is about healing attachment wounds, which is essentially about love and bonding and spirit, and feeling connected and authentically a part of something, I'd like to draw our attention to the firelight that might exist in the heart space. Everybody has it. This firelight is our divine spark. It's what gives us our vitality, our life force. And so together, Jocelyn and I, we are going to find our firelight in that space. And I just invite you to notice its subtleties, what it looks like, if it's large and roaring or small and dim. Maybe it's expansive or more like a single candlelight. Is it warm by the fire or is it cold by the fire? Maybe it's a unique color. And so as we witness this flame, we're going to ask it a message. And this message will be about how to hold the group, how to witness its incoming members and respond to its needs so that it is in service of the highest good and the greatest good of all. And whatever unfolds, it might be a sensation in the body, an intuition, a memory, colors, even an image. Just allow it to be what it is, without interpretation. And so I invite you to breathe that in, allowing it to sink into the breath, the blood, your muscle fibers, your bones, allowing that witnessing to become very cell memory. And just know that through our dreams, intuitions, imagination, creativity, synchronicities in the environment, what we have just witnessed will rise to our conscious awareness. And with that wisdom, when the time is right, we will know what to do. And so I'm going to count backwards from 5 to 1. And when we reach 1, we can release this practice. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So what came up for you? Oh, wait, I can't hear you. Hang on. Okay, say it. Okay, talk now.
From the very beginning of it, I felt something orange almost. It was like a fire. That's what I envisioned. And it's funny because at the end of it, you did talk about a light and fire and things of that nature. I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah. My fire was like flaming, like really big and roaring.
Yes.
But it was, and when I asked it for a message, it put out like 6 cards, almost like either oracle cards or angel cards or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I read it as? So I recently was asked by a publisher from Routledge Publishing to write a book on art therapy and addictions. Nice. And so they asked me to submit a proposal. And I've been thinking about what I want the book to be on and how I want to structure it and what I want to do to flesh it out. And I had been debating creating sort of a 6-week program where I invite the members of this group to participate in directives like creative arts therapies, directives, and meditations to explore what issues I think intersect with attachment issues when it comes to addiction. And expanding that definition of addiction to, like, for example, love addiction, mm-hmm. or to what I call attachment hunger, and to like overeaters, or to like different, to gaming as an addiction, right? And of course, there's also the drug and alcohol addiction as well. So that kind of came up for me, and I felt like it was kind of like good idea.
Yeah.
Like, see how it goes, you know? So that may be something I pitch to the group, you know, in the coming months as I put the proposal together.
Awesome.
So that was cool. So I would like to ask you, you know, as you have been monitoring the numbers of people coming in, like how many people have joined our group since, or let's say in the past 2 weeks?
All right. In the past 2 weeks, as of this morning, we've had 161 attachment group members.
What? 161 new members?
161 new members.
That's amazing. Wow. Welcome. Welcome. That kicks ass. That's great. Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to have our 161 new members.
As well as the other ones.
Yeah.
Our older members.
Our older members, yeah. So another question I have then is, have you been noticing any themes or trends in what people are expressing that, they're interested in coming into the group?
Okay. Yes. A lot of them want a lot of educational content, as well as learning how to cope. Yeah, coping skills, and a lot of a very popular one is inspirational stories.
Inspirational stories.
Yes, we want to hear a lot of inspirational stories, as well as educational content.
Okay. So that's interesting. So there were three questions posted to the wall this week that I think are really great, and that kind of give me to-do tasks. And one of them was how to talk to someone who has avoidant attachment, or how to approach someone who has avoidant attachment in such a way that they're able to have the conversation and not feel threatened by it. And so part of it is creating the frame for that conversation, right? And I thought that was a great question. I've been reading this book. It's called, I don't know if you can see it, Trauma and the Avoidant Client. And there have been some tips on how to approach, number one, creating a frame in which someone who struggles with avoidant attachment might be able to understand that it comes from their attachment stuff. I think it depends on the degree of awareness that you might have about your issues and, where you're at with that. But so there's some recommendations on how to help someone who's not at all aware that there may be connections between their attachment history and how they're dealing with their emotions or not dealing with their emotions right now. And then the other book that I've been reading, this is a manual. It's called Motivational Interviewing by Miller and Rolnick. So now motivational interviewing is actually a style of counseling and therapy that evolved out of addiction treatment. And it's a way of approaching a conversation with someone that allows them to elicit their own motivation for things, and also allows them to kind of see whatever it is that they're expressing in a different frame of reference. So I'll talk more about that because you had mentioned that people are interested in educational content. So there's some like scripts and examples of how certain conversations might go that might be worthwhile sharing in like an educational video, coming up that I may put on the wall.
Correct.
So I think that that's a really good question to address. Another question that came up had to do with, not so much a question so much as it seemed like kind of a reflection on how sometimes it's hard to be in to be in relationships with individuals that may have personality issues. And when I say personality issues, I mean like have received a diagnosis like borderline personality or narcissistic personality or something like that. And so there are some intersections between, attachment stuff and when someone receives a diagnosis like that. So I think there's also some confusion around what is narcissistic personality disorder versus what is borderline personality disorder. How are they different? How are they the same? And, what's interesting is that I think social conditioning also has something to do with the way those diagnoses are arrived at. But I'll talk more about that in a video, that goes into the educational content. So that was the second one. And then the third one was someone asked about role play, like the possibility of doing some role play to to exemplify like maybe what anxiousness looks like versus what does like avoidance look like and whatnot. I kind of get performance anxiety with role play, but I mean, I can do it, but if I almost, for me, I'm kind of a scripted person. I like to script things. I'm not so off the cuff. But I do think that I could share some examples of scripts from things and whatnot. So also I have friends who are drama therapists. So it's kind of on my agenda to maybe talk to one of them and see if they'd be interested in doing some role play. So I liked that. So I just wanted to acknowledge those in our group check-in, people who are posting on the wall. We do see that, and it does inform what it is, the direction that we want to take, and serving the needs of the group as well. So the other thing I wanted to ask is, Jocelyn, what creative thing have you done for yourself this week?
Oh, well, I dyed my hair darker. It was blonde before. Well, it had like a balayage highlight kind of thing going on. Yeah. And now I'm back to brunette.
Yeah. What motivated that decision, just out of curiosity?
I just need a change. I liked the blonde. I really did. But I also saw that I got a lot more attention from it. And it's crazy that just like a very subtle, it really wasn't subtle, but just something small like that, like a change of hair color, like it just attracts so much more people. And I was kind of feeling overwhelmed. I was like, all right, let me go to my safe color.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So you were feeling overwhelmed by the attention?
Yes.
What's overwhelming about that? Like
well, as I've mentioned to you before, changing a lot in the last couple of years, I'm still kind of finding self-confidence and trying to learn how to take compliments. But things like that still make me a little uncomfortable. So I'm trying to learn how to take it and have it not be an uncomfortable situation for me. But yeah, that did become a little overwhelming.
That's really interesting. What comes up for me is ideas about receiving, and maybe even like owning that almost like authority of stepping into being seen and feeling worthy of it, and also feeling like you're not going to be pushed over by it. Right.
Okay. Another thing is kind of, I went on 2 dates with a guy and he loved the blonde hair. And he really, really, really liked it. And I was mentioning, I think I'm going to go back to the brunette. He's like, no, don't change it. So this is kind of my way of like rebelling. One, because I stopped talking to him, and 2, because I can do whatever I want to do with my hair.
Yeah, it's really objectifying.
Yeah, it is.
There's also the sense that like that you're not you're your hair.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I've also been, I've shared in this group before, like I've wanted to step into, so Jocelyn and I didn't know Jocelyn was on a certain dating app. And so I go on to the dating app and I'm like responding to things and checking out the feed. And then there's Jocelyn. That was you. She inspired me to like respond to the feed. So like put my face out there on the feed. Speaking of overwhelming, but it was like, and then it was like, bing, 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 bing. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like there's this quality of, sometimes it's fun, but there's almost this game show quality to some of these dating apps. It's almost like you're playing a video game in a weird way.
Well, with that, I feel like you're actually giving people permission to be this way. But when you're not giving a person the permission to be so forward and tell you certain things, that's when it becomes overwhelming, like too much for me. Yeah.
I think also, too.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, two, it's like, I guess it also, I think context maybe is important because like, let's say someone's coming on really strong and there's no real context for it. Like they don't know you or
Right.
like, you know, there hasn't been enough time for them to be so enamored with you. Right. Or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Then it feels like it's more that they're projecting something onto you and then they're attracted to whatever that projection is. Right.
I think so.
So sometimes I feel like for me in the dating world, I feel kind of hyper vigilant about that. I'm just like, are you really seeing me or are you seeing what you want to see because that's how you want to feel? Right. It's almost like being in love with the idea of being in love.
Yes.
Right. Or being in love with being in love. It's an addiction. Like
I love those choices of words, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I totally agree.
Like you're searching for the feeling. And if you find someone who fits well enough, oh, they can hold that feeling for me.
Mm-hmm.
Or they create that feeling in me when I don't know how true that is. Right. That and I think that's kind of like the no man's land. It's like, how much is this feelings authentically being generated in the interactions between us, and how much of this feeling is being generated through my own fantasy and projection because I'm so desperate to feel that way.
Correct.
Um,
Interesting.
Because I know I've done that. I mean, I know that I've done that in the past to other people, and I know that other people have done it to me. And it's definitely one of the things that I am mindful of and also wary of as I go into the dating world again, you know, after a 2-year hiatus, because there is this trepidation where I'm just like, because, you know, for as much as I talk about this stuff, I do read about it and I share it, and I have found my own sense of like stability and centeredness in a lot of what I've dived into and have done so far, and things I've written about, you know, in the book that came out and all this. But there's the theory and then there's the experiment. And at some point, right, you have to stop reading all the books and you have to actually go out and do the goddamn test, right? You have to actually you have to stop studying and you have to take the motherfucking test. So it's like, you know, so I'm like, all right, let's go take this test.
Like we know exactly what to do. It's just a matter of doing it.
Right.
That's the hard part.
Right. It's that battle between head and heart. Like, I know, but can I implement it? And can I receive, right? Can I take in love? Can I see someone for who they are without projecting all the things that I think I want onto them, and really just sit with, right? And really just sit with what is. And can I go on a date and really just enjoy the date for what it is, enjoy the meal for what it is, and realize that everyone has something unique and special about them, and just allow that to be what it is without thinking in the back of my mind, like, oh, this isn't forever. You know what I mean?
Yes. When is it going to go wrong? Where is it going to go wrong?
Right. Right. Or you know, in the first few minutes, write someone off no. You know, so, and, you know, so really that has been, but the other thing too is, you know, I feel like I've had such a dichotomous relationship with dating in my whole adult dating history, because I have had phases where I've really enjoyed it. Like, I've really enjoyed going out and dating and meeting new people and having a good time. And then I've had phases where it just felt like a drudgery. And it was like, this takes so much time, energy, and effort, you know, to have conversations, to go out, to meet people. And if it's not like what I want, then I feel like I've wasted my time and blah, blah, blah.
And starting over.
You know?
Right? Yeah.
And it's like, my idea of relational bliss is sitting on the couch, ordering Mexican food, and watching a mind-numbing movie. You know, right. Like I just want to snuggle with someone and just and this is something that I have to work on, and it's probably my boundary issues, but jumping from, hey, I'm just getting to know you, to being in that state of just being together, and you can predict each other's moves and what they'll say and whatever. I love that phase. That's the phase. I love the settled phase. I don't like all of the novelty that happens in the beginning. And it's funny because a lot of people like the novelty.
Right. Yeah, we were having this discussion, I believe, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I told you that I love the novelty phase. I love starting over. As weird as that sounds, I really do. I love meeting new people, and I love seeing where it could potentially lead to.
Yeah.
But then when it does fall off, I'm kind of bummed. But it doesn't take too much after that for me to like get back on my feet.
You know, I feel like I had my phases, like I was probably when I was younger, I had phases like that. And then as I got older, it was more like, oh my God, I hate this. And so now I'm trying to get over that. And I'm trying to be like, really enjoy it again and just be kind of, just be open to whatever the experience is in the moment and allowing it to evolve in whatever way it needs to. And being happy with that, like, and being like, maybe happy is a strong word, but like being accepting and to be appreciative of what it is that it is for what it is, rather than trying to make it into something else or what it's, you know, whatever it's not.
And that's what I'm learning right now.
Mm-hmm. It's all a learning process. It's all a learning process.
Definitely.
You know, so, okay. So in terms of the creative things that I did, over the past week. So some of the people in this group may know, you may not know, that I have another group, which is called the Abundant Healer Group. And that's a group for therapists and healers to make money online and to how to expand their business beyond a one-to-one model. So the Healing Attachment Wounds group is kind of my passion. It's sort of like the area in which I like to work in terms of my clinical practice and even in the energy work that I do. But the other program is a training program for other practitioners and healers to kind of expand their scope and, you know, step into their own sovereignty in that way. And the reason I even have these two groups is because I really feel like they intersect. Because usually if we struggle with relationships, it's because we struggle with having a sense of security within ourselves. And those things can bleed into money, right? Those things can bleed into our sense of efficacy and what we do for a living. The things that we, you know, that we decide to do, and how we own ourselves in those situations, because I think it's all connected. But basically, I had shared in that group a few slides of what I'd done in the past week, which is I went to a conference to talk about complicated grief, to talk about addiction, and to talk about what's called the heroine's journey, which is basically a psycho-spiritual way of framing women's depression and anxiety. And that, of course, to my mind, is also relational as well. And it has to do with our relationship to ourselves. And that comes up so much when we talk about like secure attachment, for example. So I just want to I'll share a few slides. I won't belabor it too much because some of it is probably a little different. Let me see. Oh, stop sharing. Let me see if I can share it again. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So that's just me being a presenter at a conference with my little tags there. And this was doing an art project. They had an exhibition hall. I was doing some art. So that's one of my creative activities for this week. I was making a book cover for a sketchbook. And here I'm talking about addiction. And I think it's relevant. As I mentioned before, I think I may do a project with this group around addiction, and I may ask for some participants. So keep your eyes out for that. This was a friend of mine that attended the conference with me. And for those of you that don't know, I have written, co-authored, and edited a book on complicated grief, attachment, and art therapy. I think there was a question. What were you going to say?
I don't know if you're changing the pictures or not, but they're not showing up right now.
Oh, you can't see them?
No, so it's only on the first picture. I think it may have frozen.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Can you see it now? It says
no.
Sharing is paused. Bring your window to the front. Let's see. All right, I'm going to stop share. I'm going to try again. Thank you for letting me know. Let's try it again.
I was wondering, like, when is she moving to the second slide?
Do you see it?
I see. Yeah, there we go. Now.
You can see them now?
Yes.
Okay. So it's me being a presenter.
Yes.
This is me at the exhibition hall doing a book cover for a sketchbook. This is me doing my presentation on reframing addiction. And as I said, I'm probably going to be petitioning this group to help me with the book that I've been asked to write by Routledge Publishing for that. Friend of mine at the conference. And this is the book that I've written. I saw someone ask on the feed if anyone knows of any books. And I was just like, oh, like, you must know that I'm hosting this group in part because I've written a book about attachment. So this is my book, which is Complicated Grief, Attachment, Art Therapy. It's actually theory, treatment, and 14 ready-to-use protocols. So it's geared more towards practitioners and therapists. However, I have written it in such a way that anybody could be able to read it and follow it. And the 14 protocols are actually, they're things that you could do to explore your own sense of loss and or grief as it pertains to attachment relationships. So here's a little plug for my book there. So does anybody know of any books about attachment? Mine on the feed, mine. Okay, and this was actually the presentation I did on complicated grief. And you know, people, honestly, not to toot, to toot my own horn, there were 120 people spilling out of this room listening to what I had to say about it. I think it is also because the topic is so prevalent and it just touches all aspects of our lives, intersecting with attachment and with, to my mind, addictions and what I call attachment hunger. But this audience was really gracious because it was so full. I was like, oh my God, I have to get a selfie with these people. So they waved, and this is only half the room. Like there's another half of the room that's just as full.
Yeah.
But it was really fun.
Kind of see it.
You can kind of tell, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And then I had to share, after that presentation, this was a text message that someone in the audience sent my sister. And so then my sister sent it to me. And she's like, girl, Justine, your sister's killing it in the conference. I forgot we'd both be here. Her presentations are hella popular. Fangirls pouring out the door to get an earshot of her. So, you know, I share this because I think it's really important to acknowledge your own accomplishments and to really allow yourself to receive when the work, you know, the hard work that you've done is recognized and paid off. And, you know, I think sometimes, particularly when we struggle with attachment wounds, we have a sense of worthiness and we tend to overdo things, right? Because we have a hard time like receiving and taking in and being seen, right? Or even being, right? Or even being sought after.
Yes.
So I wanted to share this because it was like a win for me. Like this was a big win for me. And also in sharing it, I'm also showing you myself receiving it, right? Because yeah, like I did a good job and I really put a lot of effort into creating a presentation that I thought would be entertaining, that people would want to see. And it was so validating and it was so heartwarming that, you know, there were people in the hallways just sitting outside the door listening to the presentation. So I actually was feeling like I probably will give that presentation on complicated grief in this group at some point, like do a webinar, and most likely the feed will go through this group. So, you know, if that's something that's interested, people maybe could comment below this video, like, yes, I'd like to see that or whatever. But it was it was powerful because I think grief is so tied up. You know, grief actually, when you look at brain scans of people who have what is called complicated grief, when you look at the brain scans of people who have complicated grief, their reward centers light up. And this is the same part of the brain that's associated with attachment. It's also the same part of the brain that lights up when drug users look at drug paraphernalia, and when mothers look at their newborn infants. So people who have quote unquote normal grief, only their pain pathways light up. People who have complicated grief, their attachment and reward pathways light up as well. So it's really interesting. And I can talk more about that. You know, actually you were mentioning that educational content is something that they're really looking for. So yes, maybe that is something I should do. So I may stream that presentation through this group then. Mm-hmm. And this is Ray. Ray was a lovely participant in the group, came up to me at the bar later, asked me, she wanted to share me, she really liked the presentation. So we sat down, talked about relationships, talked about life, talked about work. It was great. And then the last day, they have like at these conferences, they have an open art studio. So I went to the open art studio and I created this piece. And there's something very vibrant and I feel like abundant about it. And the squiggles and the circles to me feel kind of like the achievements and the things that I managed to do while I was there. And I felt like I did do a good job, and I really did what I went there to do. But like the figure is a bit ponderous. And I think that's because that I am kind of stepping into this place that I'm feeling accomplished and validated. And I'm actually really loving what I'm doing in terms of my work right now, which is different. It hasn't always been that way. But like right now, I'm really loving what I'm doing. And so there was this sense of, but like sort of in contrast was the sense of like, oh, like I wish I could like go back to my hotel room and pick up the phone and call my sweetheart and be like, honey, you know how hard I worked on that thing? Well, let me tell you, like 120 people showed up to my lecture. The place was packed. There were people sitting outside the door. Oh my God. Like they really heard what I had to say. They took it in. They loved it. And just being able to share in the excitement of like, you know, the abundance, like the arrival, the fruition of the things that I've been working towards, and really having this wonderful experience of that being mirrored back to me and being able to share that with someone, you know, and like being able to have kind of like an intimate witness to that. So I think that, you know, maybe that's the paradox of things like this is like you have a really wonderful success, and then it kind of puts into contrast the areas that maybe, so that maybe now as much time, energy, and effort I'm putting into my business and the things that I'm doing in work, I need to start, you know, balancing that energy and filling out the other aspects of my life that deserve as much as attention. Because if I pay attention to my heart and, you know, to the parts of me that maybe are more visceral and more physical or more emotional, there's a yearning there. And so that's kind of where I'm at, you know, in my journey with this. And it's something I've been sharing with this group, and also on my YouTube channel as well. So thank you for listening to me just blather on, Jocelyn.
You know how much I enjoy it.
Yeah. So in terms of upcoming events, so I'm going to come up with a more clear idea of what I want to pitch to this group with regards to writing that book about addiction and art therapy and how I feel like it ties in with attachment and so forth. So that's something I'm going to ruminate on and start formulating, because I'll have to create a proposal for that. But I think one of the things that I can do more immediately is I may stream the complicated grief presentation through this feed. And then I think I may also, I want to also address the questions regarding how to talk with an avoidant person. And the other question that came up had to do with borderline, like understanding a little bit more about how that works. So I actually have a script. I haven't made a movie of it, but I may do that, which is about kind of like comparing and contrasting these diagnoses, like narcissism versus borderline personality, and what does that mean exactly? So I think, so I feel, and there's like 3 movies I want to make and stream through this group, which is, the first one's the avoidant stuff. The second one is the narcissism versus borderline personality. And the third one is, I have a script, which again, I haven't made a video of it yet, but have you ever seen the movie Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
I have not.
It's with Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. It's like a Sundance winner. It came out a while ago, but it's really worth watching. And to my mind, it's sort of exemplary of like an anxious avoidant attachment style kind of relationship. So I've actually written like an attachment analysis of that relationship. So that might actually be kind of a good thing for the role play, you know, like to maybe satisfy some of what's being requested there, because basically we take a look at clips of the film, you know, the kind of exchanges that are going on, and I basically analyze them and I tell you like how you might think about it, like how you could frame it in the context of attachment styles. So that's the other one I want to do. So I've got my homework cut out for me. I've got 3 videos to make, and I want to stream a webinar through this feed. So if you're interested in educational content, we are going to deliver. And I think that's it. Is there anything that you wanted to add, Jocelyn, or anything that you've been noticing or Any commentary before we close?
No, I think we covered it all.
Okay. Very cool. Well, thank you for doing the check-in with me.
Oh, no problem.
And we are going to be doing this again November 29th in the evening on Wednesday.
Yes, ma'am.
So anyone who wants to join us, feel free. All right, ladies. So I'm going to end our recording.
All right.
All right. Let me stop our screen share.